should consume as little cholesterol as possible.
You have to consume egg yolks.
Fruit is evil.
I don't eat fruit because fruits is sugar.
Fruit is fantastic for you.
Bacon and eggs for breakfast is okay.
Processed meat is a carcinogen.
Confused yet? I know I was too. That's why in this video we're talking about why you should ignore advice from so-called gurus and where you should really be getting your advice for health and nutrition. Roll the intro. So quick question. How many times have you been watching the news or heard a friend talk something about nutrition and thought to yourself, that's like the opposite of what I thought was true? Well, good news is you're not alone in this endeavor. In fact, I would be very surprised if you haven't experienced something like this before. So the big question is, who's to be trusted? Who and what should you believe, and why? Well, let's get this out of the way first. You should never be taking advice from some so-called guru without first finding where they got their information. You should be able to look and find out where they are sourcing their information, find out if those sources are solid, and if they're misinterpreting the evidence or not. I know it takes some extra effort, but if there is one thing you ever put some extra research and effort into, it should be for the health and well-being of you and your family. It's totally fine to listen to people's advice and opinions, but if people are making actual claims without sufficient evidence to back it up, don't just take it at face value. That's how people get misled. It doesn't even matter if the person is a nutritionist or a doctor, because unfortunately, those people are just as susceptible to spreading unsubstantiated health information. I mean, just look at Dr. Atkins. Dr. Atkins was definitely a doctor, and he was definitely a really smart dude. But that doesn't make his recommendations good.
Honey, I'm kind of concerned about your recent smoking habit.
Oh, honey, don't be ridiculous. I read this thing on the internet. It said smoking doesn't cause lung cancer.
Okay, but just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true.
Oh, no need to worry, ma'am. I'm a real doctor. I read that study too. It says smoking is A-okay.
Are you sure? You don't look like a real doctor.
I'm just off duty. Yeah.
Oh, well, if a real doctor says it, then it's gotta be true, right? Breathe deep, honey.
One of the reasons that I developed bad eating habits that I thought were actually good was because I was listening to fitness advice on YouTube. And when I was in middle school and high school, I didn't know any better than to just listen to people who were really fit for nutrition advice. Unfortunately, most people never actually grow out of that phase. When I reflect on some of these ideas that I had as a middle school and high schooler, it's just ridiculous. I was scared of things like bananas and grapes making me fat because they had sugar in them. It was exactly this type of thinking that forced me into a pattern of low-carb eating, even though I wasn't aware of it. I was relying so heavily on animal products because they were so protein dense, and I was just under this kind of protein spell, captivated by protein, thinking I've just got to cram it in. I was doing more and more of the same things and expecting different results. And people can't sit here and tell me that sugar was the main cause of my arthritis, because I was going long stretches of time without eating any sugar. Sugar definitely wouldn't have helped my situation, but I only started getting massive results whenever I got the animal products that I relied so heavily on out of my diet and then started relying on whole plant foods. The same whole plant foods that are high in carbohydrates and sugars that I thought were so bad for me.
All right, put your hands up. This is a robbery.
He has carbs. Here, take my money. I can't afford to get fat.
Huh, Jim was right. Replacing guns with bananas was a great idea.
This belief of carbs turning to fat is so strikingly common nowadays, even though we have really good evidence showing that it's very hard for your body to turn carbs into fat, even in a caloric surplus. Most people who get into fitness and health just follow some guru that affirms what they already think or want to be true, and then just kind of run with it. Please do yourself a favor and don't do that. Learn how to interpret evidence for yourself. I promise you, it's not as hard as you might think. Here, let me run you through a quick example to show you what I mean. Here, check this out. This was a randomized control trial, which is the gold standard of evidence, proving that parachute use when jumping from a plane did not significantly reduce risk of death or major injury. So that's it, right? Parachutes don't decrease the risk of death. So, hey, we might as well go jump out of a plane without one, right?
Oh my gosh, everything we've been told about parachutes is like a lie. Can't believe them, the freaking parachute industry. Ugh.
But hold on a second. Before we do something stupid, let's actually read the study and see how it was done. Turns out they had people jump from a plane that was stationary on the ground. I also just have to point out this one really funny bit where it says, although the use of softer endpoints, such as levels of fear before and after jumping, or its surrogates, such as loss of urinary continence, could have yielded more power to detect an effect of parachutes. Basically, just fancy science talk for, let's just look at who peed their pants. Now honestly, this is kind of just a joke study, and you might say, this could never happen with real research with real scientists, right? Unfortunately, this happens way more often than you might think. For example, check out this study that's often cited by cholesterol deniers. So we know very well that eating cholesterol increases blood cholesterol after a meal. But in the study often cited, they only measured fasting cholesterol the morning after, many hours after the meal had already passed. Of course you wouldn't see a significant difference because after that amount of time, your cholesterol levels would drop back down to about the same as where they started. If you really wanted an honest study, you would have measured the cholesterol spike after the meal, not the fasting cholesterol many hours later. Now that's just one example of how study design can often be misleading. If you can design a study in this kind of way, you can come out with conclusions that are very good for egg sales. And guess who funded that study? Oh, that's right, it's the egg industry. Alright, so I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think you get the point. Just because someone is really fit or sounds like they know what they're talking about, doesn't really mean that they do. You can look good or build muscle on virtually any kind of diet, but the goal should be to do those things without mortgaging your health in the process. So stop listening to bodybuilders and fitness models as your primary source of information on nutrition. They're almost always as ill-informed as the general public. And if you do listen to these people, at least do yourself a favor and see how what they say stacks up to the evidence. Your health and well-being will depend on it. Alright, that's all the time I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you got any value out of this video, please consider adding value back to my channel by hitting the like button, commenting, and subscribing and hitting the bell icon next to it. That really helps me out. I make 2 videos a week, all about the benefits of living a 100% whole food plant-based lifestyle and give you some tips along the way of how you can live a better life as well. Alright, and with that, I'll see you guys soon, and God bless.